Hello everyone. In this video, we will discuss about the most commonly used life cycle model in the pharmaceutical industry, that is the V-Model. We will explore how the V-Model is used in the industry and discuss its advantages and disadvantages. So let's jump right in. We saw in the last video how computerized systems are categorized based on the complexity and risk they possess. So based on that categorization, the V-Model structure will change. In less complex Category 1 and Category 3 systems, functional specifications and design specifications are usually not required, so the V-Model will look like this. And for more complex Category 4 and Category 5 systems, V-Model will look like this. In this video, we will take an example of the Category 4 system for detailed understanding of the V-Model. It is called the V-Model because of its characteristics V-shape. The left arm of V represents the planning and specification phase, and the right arm represents the configuration, verification, and reporting phase. On the left side, customer, that is regulated company producing medicine, provides inputs as a requirement to the supplier. The supplier then uses those requirements to implement the code at bottom of the V-Model. Left hand basically represents what the computer system does, along with how computer system works. Then on the right side, the resulting code is compared to the original input to ensure that the customer requirements are met. The right hand side of the V represents how you test the system to confirm that the system is fit for the purpose. Flow wise, we start at the top left, that is planning phase, then proceed down to the configuration phase, and then back up to the right, ending at reporting phase. If all these V-Model steps are applied properly, no additional work will be required to validate a system. So let's start with the planning phase. Initially, requirements expected out of the system are gathered based on the surveys, past studies, and interviews with SME. These requirements typically include functional requirements, non-functional requirements, company-wide regulatory compliance, safety, process, and other applicable requirements. All these requirements are documented in the user requirement specification. Then the validation plan is prepared, which is a strategic document that states what is to be done, the scope of approach, the schedule of validation activities, the task to be performed, and who is responsible for performing each validation activity. This ensures that mechanisms are in place to guide and control multiple development and maintenance activities. Validation plan and associated report may be one of the first documents offered during an FDA audit to demonstrate regulatory compliance, so should be written so that it can be understood by everyone. Jargon and technical details should be avoided. For small or Category 1 and Category 3 systems, it is possible to integrate the validation plan and IQ, OQ, and PQ protocols into one document and to have one report summarizing all results. We will talk about these protocols in a minute. As in this video, we are taking an example of Category 4 system. So there will always be separate validation plan and individual IQ, OQ, and PQ protocol documents. One point to remember here is that there isn't hard and fast rule that a validation plan needs to be prepared after the URS document is created. Sometimes we can start drafting the validation plan in parallel to the URS. At this stage, the URS document and validation plan are not finalized. There will be modification made to both documents based on the results of risk assessment and ongoing observations. Then the initial risk assessment will be conducted, which will help understand what is the overall risk to the business, what is the overall impact of system we want to validate. Is more detailed risk assessment required? The answer to this will often be yes for Category 4 and 5 system. Remember, during the planning phase, suppliers are not yet involved, and the regulated company handles everything. The next phase is the specification phase, where the system supplier becomes involved. In the specification phase, the first step is functional specification. After the URS are agreed upon and approved, they are typically shared with the system supplier. The supplier then creates functional specification with detailed description of how the system will meet each of the requirements outlined in the URS, such as how the system works, what data needs to be captured, and user interfaces. Functional specification is like a blueprint for how the software will fulfill the user requirements. Let's consider the system we are trying to validate as a manufacturing control system like DCS, which is category 4 system. Then the functional specification will specify types of manufacturing parameters to be monitored and controlled. It outlines the user interface for operators to interact with the DCS and define in-depth functional requirements for each module of the DCS, such as temperature control module, pressure monitoring module, and user interface module. Corresponding URS for DCS will mention something like DCS shall monitor and control temperature, pressure, and flow parameters in manufacturing process. It will also mention the required pressure monitoring range, user interface features, alarm system requirements, and data logging capabilities. Once created, functional specification will be sent to the customer for approval. Once approved, then the design specification will be prepared by the supplier based on the functional specification. If we consider the example of design specification for DCS, it will detail the hardware components including controllers, sensor, and communication interfaces. Describe the software architecture including algorithms for control and monitoring, like generally used functional blocks and sequence for control. Usually there will be separate design specification document for hardware and software components. Design specification describe in detail how each function is to be designed or configured. It is a more technical follow-on document from the functional specification and may contain configuration specifications or code. Its intended audience is the system developer. Functional risk assessment will be conducted alongside the creation of functional specification and design specification. This assessment will enable us to identify any risk associated with specific process such as the bioreactor or risk associated with specific function such as agitator in the bioreactor. Once we have identified this risk, we will define appropriate controls to minimize them. If necessary, the URS and FS will be updated based on the risk assessment. After the design specification is approved, coding is initiated at the bottom of V-Model. Supplier relies on its expertise to implement the customer requirements. All functionalities documented in the previous step are implemented here. After the completion of coding, different levels of testing are carried out. First is unit testing, also known as module testing. As part of unit testing, individual modules are tested. If we consider the example of DCS, this could be testing the functionality of, say, temperature control module to ensure it accurately measures and controls the temperature. Then the next level of testing is integration testing. As part of the integration testing, multiple modules will be tested together. As part of integration testing for DCS, communication between temperature control module, pressure monitoring module, and flow control module will be tested to ensure they work together seamlessly. The third and last level is system testing. This testing is conducted after integration testing is successful. This testing ensures the entire system works as per specification. If we consider the example of DCS, this testing ensures end-to-end functionality of the DCS, including monitoring various manufacturing parameters and responding to operator inputs works as explained in the specification. All these activities will be carried out at the supplier location. Sometimes you will see this as the whole V-model, but specifically in pharma industry, it doesn't end here. We cannot directly use this tested code in production environment. This code will be delivered at site to the regulated company by the supplier and then starts the verification phase. All verification activities will be conducted by the supplier and regulated company together. Now before going to the verification phase, IQ, OQ and PQ protocols are prepared, which can be prepared in parallel to the specification phase. This protocol helps us during verification phase to make sure the code we develop follows the respective specification. So separate IQ, OQ and PQ protocols are prepared for IQ, OQ and PQ qualification. IQ, that is installation qualification protocol. IQ protocol outline the specific steps, basically a checklist and criteria for installing the software and hardware in the intended environment. Acceptance criteria will also be mentioned in these protocols, which must be met to ensure successful installation. OQ, that is Operation Qualification Protocol. OQ protocol define procedures and acceptance criteria for testing the operational aspect of the software. This includes functional testing, ensuring that software behaves as required in the production environment. OQ protocols often includes scenarios to validate critical functionalities, error handling, and security features. PQ, that is Performance Qualification Protocol. PQ protocols specify procedures and acceptance criteria for testing the performance of software under realistic conditions. This includes stress testing, load testing, and assessing system response times. PQ protocol may include scenarios to validate data integrity, system scalability, and software's ability to handle the concurrent users. So protocols now are complete. Next, we go to the qualification, that is the verification phase. Qualification is the process of demonstrating whether a computer system and its associated control process are fulfilling specified requirements. Installation qualification. Installation qualification provides documented evidence that IQ protocol has been followed to ensure software and hardware is installed according to appropriate and approved technical design specification. Operational qualification. It provides documented evidence that the IQ protocol has been followed to ensure functionality defined in the functional specification is present and working correctly. Performance qualification. It provides documented evidence that PQ protocol has been followed to confirm software will meet user needs and is suitable for their required use as defined in the user requirement specification. The last step in the validation method is to write the summary report declaring that the system is fit for its intended use and that every deliverable that has been planned has been delivered. When validation projects use multiple testing systems, some organizations will produce a testing summary report for each test protocol and then summarize the project with final summary report. The amount of detail in the reports should reflect system's relative complexity, business use, and regulatory risk. The report is often structured to mirror the validation plan that initiated the project. The report is reviewed and signed by the system owner and quality. So let's see what the advantages of using V-Model are. The main advantage being alignment with regulatory requirements. As the pharma industry is highly regulated with stringent requirements from the regulatory bodies such as FDA, V-Model's focus on validation and testing aligns well with regulatory expectations, making it easier to demonstrate compliance during FDA audits. The next advantage is reduced late-stage defects. By having testing activities corresponding to each development phase, the V-Model reduces the likelihood of major defects going undetected until the later stages of project. This is crucial in pharmaceutical software development, where product safety and efficacy are paramount. The next advantage is enhanced visibility and traceability. As the V-Model provides a clear and visible relationship between development phase and its associated testing phase, this enhances traceability, allowing stakeholders to easily understand how requirements are translated into design, code, and ultimately tested and validated deliverables. This early visibility also helps project managers in managing the project more effectively. So what are the disadvantages of using V-Model? The main disadvantage is V-Model isn't very effective in handling the changes at later stages of project. If any changes happen midway, then the test documents along with requirement documents have to be updated. Once application is in the testing stage, it is difficult to go back and change functionality. The next disadvantage is it is too simple to accurately reflect the software development process and can lead managers into false sense of security. Yeah, that's it. If you like the video, do press that like button and stay tuned for subsequent videos.